Hello YouTubers, today we have a Mavic that's been through a crash, probably more than one. And we do some work to the, one of the hinges is broken. Actually it's on the left leg, left arm I should say. The fan is smashed, the cooling fan is smashed. The camera gimbal cable is torn. I get the error of gimbal overload on the Go 4 app. And I'm going to replace the entire shell too because there are cracks in the shell. It's actually the hooks where the shell's pieces together, they're cracked and they don't assemble properly. So stay tuned and let's get started. Take the battery out first. Put that aside. We'll take off the top. Like I said before, the screws are all gone. It's just a matter of prying it up. I do notice some of the hooks are even broken, which is why we're going to replace the entire shell, top and bottom. First time I'm doing something like that. I've replaced the top before, but never both shells, so it should be an adventure. That was the GPS I just disconnected. Just to give you a heads up, that is connected right here. So just make sure that while you're prying the shell up, after you get the screws out, that you disconnect that before just yanking it off. As far as the screws go, there's a one here. Fortunately, I can't show this because this has already been removed. One here. There's a plate that goes over here. Let me show you that plate. I do have replacement parts here, screws and plates. But that goes here. You would take that screw out first. You pop the plate off. It's held in with clips. And then there's another screw underneath the plates, which are here and here. So they'll have to be removed. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you count the 2 on the outside of the cover, 5, 6. Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the top. So they'll all have to be removed before you can even pry the shell off. And a shell actually is very difficult to pry off. Like I mentioned, these clips were broken on many of these, so it was easy for me to pop them off. But if you had a fresh drone that was not taken apart before, you'd have to pry first from the back very carefully, disconnect the GPS unit right here, and then just work your way forward. Maybe even using a plastic spludging tool. I don't use those, but in this case it might be advisable because these clips really are held on fast, and so it's very difficult to remove them. So just be careful, work slowly, and you'll be able to do it. So now we are into the drone itself. And it might be advisable to take the bottom off first because we do have some antenna leads we have to disconnect. And we'll start by removing these. Let's pry this off here. First I'll try with my fingers if I can. Now it is held on well because there's heatsink paste. You can see here, this is the heatsink actually. I'll set that aside along with its associated screws. You can see the paste there. It may not be necessary to replace that paste. I'm going to think about that. I could clean it off. I'll put new paste on there. Now we got some ribbon cables to remove. I get one of my plastic tools. Find these help when removing ribbon cables. So we have one here that we're going to pop up, and 2 here. And we're going to pop up. There we are. that one's there. And we have some antenna leads here. We have a white long one coming through here. I believe that's another black one there. Another white one, or I would call it gray. Another black one over here. So it's black, gray, gray. I'm sorry, black, gray, black, and gray. I'm assuming that these leads go to all 4 of the legs. I believe that's where the antennas are. So we need to remove those. There is actually a little ribbon cable down here which is covered with glue. A lot of glue actually. We're going to have to remove that glue so we can remove that cable, which is going to be delicate. Now what I've done is I've actually marked each one of these with color. You can jot down the order of the color then, just to make sure I don't get any of these antenna leads mixed up. So we'll pop these antenna leads off now. To remove all this glue. You have to be careful with this glue because it's coating a ribbon cable underneath of it. We'll flip that up so we can remove that cable. But first we'll remove the antenna cables. We'll just pop them off like this. Just like that. Pop that one off. Pop that one off. And that one. It's got like a little hook that it gets hooked into. These can just be moved out of the way. And we'll try to get this cable out of here. And there it is. Okay. Now we have 3 screws, Phillips screws, to remove. There's one here. One here. One right in the middle. Now be cautious of this one here because there's like a cover, a taped cover that tends to ride up with the screw. You don't want to tear that off, so just sort of push down on that cover as the screw comes out. Now this board should be totally free. We have to kind of work it out. Lift up on it. Just make sure the ribbon cables are out of the way. We do have replacement ribbon cables. The new shell, but just you want to get in the habit of not tearing cables and do things carefully. These cables were kind of blocking it from coming out. There it is. You kind of have to lift it up from this end and then kind of swing it to the left a little bit. There it is, just like that. And you will see it comes right out. So we'll set that aside along with associated screws. You can see there's the IMU right there. The inertial measuring units right there. Now we can flip it over to the other side. We need to work on getting this board out, which will be a little bit more involved. Let's see, where should we start here? We can start by taking the power unit off here. Take these 2 connectors, release those. Release the power connector for the gimbal. It's right here. That out of the way. Let's pop off the vision position sensor connectors here. Just pry them right off there with our little plastic tool. There we go. We're going to remove the compass screw. We'll set that aside. I guess at this point we can remove the gimbal. I'm going to use the replace the ribbon cable for the gimbal in a separate video, since that really takes a fair amount of time and it's going to require a video of its own. So I will post that video after I post this one. There's 4 screws here removed to take out the camera gimbal assembly. You can see that's out. Set that aside. You definitely can see here now the ribbon cable is damaged. It's torn up right here, and I can see further damage further down. There's no question it has to be replaced. Here's the division position sensors right here. I'm going to take that out because that's got to be removed over. Actually, these are going to be replaced because I do get that error concerning the vision sensor. I don't have that in yet. I've ordered it. Okay, these will just pop out just like that. Kind of bring them to the back a little bit, and you can pop them up. It's best done with the gimbal assembly removed, so you have the room to do it. So that's those. As I'm talking to you here, it's actually, we have a raging storm going outside. We're right in the middle of a nor'easter here on the East Coast. I'm in southeastern Pennsylvania. So hopefully I can get through this video without losing power. I did a video on a Phantom 4 shell replacement, and an earthquake occurred in the middle of that video, so we always seem to have some sort of calamity going on when I plan these videos. What I'm doing now is I'm taking the power board off here. This is where you plug your battery into. This has to come off. Underneath it is where the fan is. We don't really care about the broken fan because we have a replacement for that, but I'll take it out anyway. I'll show you how it comes out. If you ever have to do a fan replacement, this is what you'd have to go through. There's 3 screws underneath this tape. So this black, I won't call it tape, but cover material that sticks on. You have to pull it up, and then you can see now that the power board comes off. It's still attached to the main board. Now there is a power lead from the fan which plugs into the main board here. Let's remove that. And that's out. Make sure that's free and clear. And we have 4 screws. That will remove to take out the fan assembly. Two up here, I don't know if you can see it. And there's 2 down in there. And this whole thing should pull right up. There it is. This is your whole fan assembly. And you can see I wasn't kidding when I said the fan was smashed. This poor drone took quite a hit. So that's going to be tossed out. Alright, that's free. Now, of course, we have glue here holding everything on. Now, what we'll need to do is we'll need to desolder the leads for the front arms. The rear ones, I believe we can leave soldered because they'll come out. It's still attached to the main board. But this has to go through the shell here, so they'll have to be removed. They'll have to be desoldered. So you have 3 leads to go to the motors, and then you have 2 leads which go to the LEDs, and then there's another lead I actually saw where I unplugged from underneath, and there were the antenna leads. So you have actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 leads to deal with. Alright, I got the soldering iron heated up. We're going to remove the cables. Just make note of the order of these cables. With the LED on the left hand side, it's the gray and the black. The motor leads go black, white, and gray. So we'll start by removing the leads to the LED. I've got my small soldering iron here to see if I can remove those. There's 1. 2. And there's 1 over here. 1 comes out pretty easily. 2. Those are your LEDs. Okay, what I'm doing here is removing some of the solder. There's a lot of solder for these motor leads. I'm going to use a solder remover here to try to get rid of some of it. I'm going to try this soldering. It actually does pretty good. This little soldering iron looks like it was hot enough. I wasn't sure that would be the case. Notice I've had a bit of a weight here. I actually put something like this, like a brick, just to hold down the Mavic while I'm doing this. A little more stability. It gives me a way to lean my hand on it too. Get a little more heat on it. There it is. Just caution you about putting the soldering on there for too long. You don't want to overheat something that's on the other side of the board, some component perhaps. There. Some of the excess glue off there. It's going to be in the way when I go to solder these back on. Alright, so they're free and clear. We're going to unplug the soldering irons. I think we're going to be done with these for at least for a little while. Yeah, let's see what we can do here. This is the antenna lead. This goes down on the left-hand side. So we can pull this out. Just like that. And this is the white antenna lead. This goes down on the other side. This is the longest one. So we'll pull this one out. Now we can remove the front arms. So turn it over. So remove the broken one first. it is busted up. Spring. It's actually busted apart. I'm going to push this out from this end here. I hope we can get it out. Yeah, we should be able to get it out that way even. There we go. There's the one leg. This has to come out. There's a little washer there. We need to retain that. It's got to go back in. We'll pull this out here. Throw it out. All these can be thrown out. They're no good. I'm going to actually remove this one now. This one is still good, so it'll be spring loaded. So just keep that in mind. It's going to give a little snap on you when you go to disengage it. There it is. A little snap. Here it comes out, see? This one is good. So we'll just set this one here. Alright, let's take these back legs off here. Get those free. A little bit of glue here. See if I can remove that. There's 2 Phillips head screws. And 1 hex screw, I believe, it's on the outside of the leg here. Let's take the Phillips head ones off first. Get the wire out of the way here. Remove the hex screw from the back. And this will be free. It's nice that we can actually remove these back legs anyway, without desoldering any wires. Okay, free and free. Now let's take the board out. Just 3 screws, I believe. I do see a ribbon cable here. We're going to pop that up. That free and clear of the glue. And there's our board. Grab our new shell. And we'll just transfer everything over. Set that right in there. Here's this ribbon cable over here. Sure we bring that up so we can get that set. Now, we do have to remove the Wi-Fi module here. These are actually where two of these leads go to on the lower board from the Wi-Fi module. It's just held in with, it looks like maybe one screw. So we'll have to pop that out. Of course, it's partially glued in, at least the cables are. Let's remove that glue. Let's take the screw out here. Probably should have done this before I put the main board back in. It pops right out. And we'll fish it right in here. Sets in just like that. Put the screw back in. And that's it. And we'll put the screw in, the 3 screws back in for the main board. This little ribbon cable here we can clip back on. There you are. It is nice that I was able to find this with the ribbon cables intact and ready to go. Just one less thing you got to deal with is transferring over those ribbon cables. And I'm going to have to do that. I do have another one that I bought without purchasing the ribbon cables already pre-installed. We'll see how that goes. There's some glue in the way there. Let's get that out of the way. There. Alright, we're going to put the hinge back in here. This isn't the easiest thing to do because these are spring-loaded. The way these go in is there's a little mark here. I don't know whether that's visible on the camera. This actually goes into the body, toward the body, so you need to insert it. Just like that. And because it's under some tension, you're not going to be able to insert it very easily. So we're going to push it down, and I'm going to take a pair of pliers and just sort of work it in. twisting it to go against the spring. Trying to get it lined up as best as possible. And turn it with a pair of pliers. There. Not quite in. Now we're down in there. And we have a little screw that goes in there. Just one screw. And we'll screw that in. And that is in. And you can test its functionality. Just going like that. Of course, we fed the wires through here. They're through here. And I fed the antenna wire down, the black one, down alongside here. So that comes out down here. That's where it's going to be connected on the bottom board. And we're going to do the other one. The other one we have a replacement for because that's the broken one. So we're going to install that next. Alright, now we're going to solder the leads back on here. Start with the LED leads first. Now we have gray, white, and black. Is the order of these motor leads. Alright, not the neatest job in the world, but it'll work. It looks like we have the new hinge mechanism here we're going to put into this side. Okay, once again we'll have to take that pair of pliers. Now to get this thing turned in. One screw goes back here. Just like that. The other was a hole here, which you see is open. their screw goes in there, which the screw that puts the cover plate on here will actually go through that hole to retain that side of it. See how it works here. It's working like it should. It's perfect. All right. I actually soldered both leads back on from both motors and actually put a little bit of electronic grade silicone glue to retain these wires. Probably advisable because these wires will flex repeatedly as you open and close the legs, and we don't want that flexing to occur at the solder joint, which would cause a failure. So probably best to use the silicone glue. You don't need it in the Phantom 4 series, but I think in this it is more important to actually add it, so I did. Now let's go ahead and put the fan in here, the fan assembly. And that goes in just like this. Make sure this is out of the way. Alright, that's seated in there. Tighten the lower screws in, which were already there. Now we'll need to hook up the fan lead, which is here. And snaked it underneath the motor leads there. Yeah, that's it. Gonna route the wire for the compass. That does have little retaining slots that it can get pushed into. Then we can put the power plate back on here. I'm going to lift up the sticky paper at the same time as trying to get the screw in. It's a little difficult. Alright, sure that's all back down. Okay, before we put this compass back in, I'll put these vision position sensors. I actually do have new sensors ordered because I am getting an error. The right front sensor is defective, so we will be replacing that. But just for the sake of completeness, I'm going to go ahead and stick these back in for now, just to show you how to do it. I won't assemble everything until I have the new ones. And it's best to put these in before you have the camera module in, just to give you enough room to maneuver it in. screws in. Okay, that's in. And we will put the camera gimbal back in. Actually, let's do the compass next. Now keep in mind this compass, the screw here is an aluminum screw. Just so that doesn't affect the compass. If you put a metal screw in there, you could actually end up having errors, which can drive you crazy. So that's one of the reasons why you don't want to get these screws mixed up. So just make sure you retain the compass screw and you put the correct one back. And we'll just seat this here. It's got two little tabs it sits on. Just like that. And we'll just have to put this in with a pair of tweezers. Put the camera gimbal. I'm going to replace this ribbon cable, but we're going to do that in another video. So for now, we're just going to stick this back in. Run the power lead up here where it belongs. And this will sit up in there, just like that. We'll connect up these leads here. First, a vision position sensor. It just pops down in there. If you get it lined up, I'll click in. Then lined up first. There, that's in. Then these two here have to be clipped in, just like that. And we can actually put this power lead in first. Okay. And what we'll do right now is we'll transfer the GPS unit over from the old top shell to the new one. A couple of screws come out of the shield. The shield has a crack in it, but I'm not going to worry about replacing it just for that reason. This poor Mavic really had a hard life. Get this out of here. And there's the GPS unit there. There it is. Make sure this GPS unit's all the way down in. Oh, there, because it wasn't. Okay. Now it is. can tell this is still not in all the way here. And it's got a couple of retainers here that you have to get it in underneath of. There. Little retainers right there that you have to push it down underneath of so it gets retained from this end here. Okay. That completes the transition from the old shell to the new one. Take and toss out the old stuff. Let's install the main core board here. I removed the heatsink paste. I'm going to put some fresh paste on before I put the heatsink back on. Gonna have to weasel this in here carefully. Alright, cables all seem to line up. I probably didn't even need to mark them. Slide the ribbon cable in here. And we'll connect up the connectors. And we'll put the ribbon cables on. Sure they line up properly. Alright, I've got some more heatsink paste here, heatsink thermal paste, fresh paste to put on the heatsink here. You would clean off the old stuff. You can use anything, I would suspect, anything that we would use for a computer, for a CPU. And what we'll do is we'll put a little bit here, just to dab a little bit on the where the heatsink makes contact. I would think that would be enough. Now we'll just kind of carefully put this in here. See how I've got it applied. Just be careful with this stuff. Gets on your shirt. Or any piece of clothing, it's very difficult to get out. It does come with a cleansing pad too, I noticed. Oh, that's helpful, I guess, if you get it somewhere where you don't want it to be. I got this off of Amazon. HY 400 it's called, thermal grease. Seems like it would do the job. Okay, let's get this clip down in there. Alright, let's put the screws in here. See, I wasn't careful enough and started handling the drone before I took those gloves off, and I get to get some paste on the drone here, but it should wipe off pretty easily. Just remember the two longer screws, they actually have a shoulder on them. They go right in the two center holes here on either side, since they are longer. Alright, we'll tighten all these screws in a crisscross pattern. That'll do it. And this completes this portion of the video. What I will do next is I'll make a video of replacing the ribbon cable. So I won't put the top on it just yet. I'll do that once we have the ribbon cable installed, and we'll have the gimbal back in. So thanks for watching, and then again, watch out for that next video I'll be putting up on how to replace the ribbon cable on this. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.